a young man, the frontier noble Ragnar Brave, sat buried in a stack of documents, complaining about having to deal with such inefficient paperwork in a world of swords and magic. He lamented that he couldn't even escape paperwork here and wondered why he had to be chased around by it, revealing his full title as the frontier noble Ragnar Brave. Seabass, a butler-like figure, reported sadly that most of the people in the mansion had died in battle. Ragnar exclaimed that Seabass came at a good time and begged for help, but Seabass retorted that even if Ragnar, the lord, told him that dealing with the territory's affairs was the responsibility of the new lord. The Brave territory was described as a harsh environment and a frontier land, constantly full of monsters and frequently experiencing skirmishes with neighboring countries. Ragnar explained that his father and older brothers were warriors, and Seabass expressed surprise, wondering if there was someone in the family who could handle paperwork. Ragnar then recalled how he, the third son of the noble family, was drilled with the education to kill monsters and enemy soldiers, even showing a memory of himself at 3 years old fighting an orc. However, Ragnar's entire family had tragically died in the war 1 month ago. As the only one who survived, Ragnar was suddenly tasked with inheriting this frontier territory. Ragnar became frustrated, throwing paperwork in the air, revealing that he was the third son and had planned to live freely as an adventurer, exclaiming he'd rather be diving into dungeons at this rate. Seabass quickly refused this idea, reminding the young master he still had one more duty to fulfill. Seabass elaborated that the Brave territory had abundant natural resources and plenty of monster materials, and because of this, businesses catering to wanderers and adventurers thrived. Yet, the territory lacked self-sufficiency because even if they tried to make fields, they were burned by enemy nations, and attempting to develop the mountain range only caused monsters to wreak havoc. Due to this reliance on the support of other nobles, Ragnar, as the heir, was required to attend the academy in the royal capital. Ragnar realized that attending meant he would have to ingratiate himself to the other nobles and beg for their support for his territory, wondering if he could really do it. He asked Seabass if he could just refuse to enroll, but Seabass firmly stated that wouldn't do, and Ragnar insisted his family was specialized in training. Seabass, entering the room with a polite greeting, interrupted Ragnar's work and asked what Ragnar had something important to discuss this time. The important matter, Seabass said, concerned young Master Ragnar. Seabass revealed that a marriage proposal had arrived. Ragnar was stunned, asking if it wasn't too sudden, but Seabass assured him that as a lord, it wasn't an unusual matter. Ragnar then recalled his brothers had fiancées too, but Seabass revealed those women hated the land and never settled there. Seabass shared that when he went to inform the fiancées about the deaths, they seemed rather relieved, and they didn't even show up for the funeral. Ragnar, with a chilling smile, asked Seabass if he understood Ragnar was thinking of killing off the idea, which Seabass called unacceptable as Ragnar slammed his pen down in frustration. Ragnar, clearly plotting to escape, promised he would return to manage the territory during long vacations, then happily exclaimed he'd be living in a faraway dormitory in the royal capital from now on. Seabass, holding a spare pen, told Ragnar that declining the marriage proposal wasn't possible, as Ragnar would be insanely busy with his studies. Ragnar was confused by Seabass's strong refusal. Seabass explained that the marriage proposal came from the Oldwood ducal family, who provided the territory with essential weapons and food aid. Ragnar, startled, asked Seabass to confirm the rank of their noble title, recalling they were earls, but Seabass emphasized the importance of the frontier designation, showing a noble rank hierarchy of duke, marquis and earl. Ragnar then muttered the name Oldwood and had a sudden realization. He knew this world. The realization was triggered by the thought of being struck by an orc long ago, which revived a memory of his old life, and he wondered why he had forgotten about it until now. He was horrified, realizing he had been reincarnated into the world of a game. Ragnar recalled that in his previous life, he had enjoyed the culture of a country called Japan, though he couldn't even remember the game's name. He understood that the place he was in now was the world of a game he had played. The game was an otome game set at an academy where a commoner protagonist attends, falling in love with potential love interests among the nobles, a typical story. However, Ragnar remembered that the battles in the game were frequent, and by the end of the story, the royal capital was merely a battlefield. He viewed the game as terrible, recalling the visuals of the game's screen. He then remembered the antagonist, Alicia, the villainess and daughter of the Oldwood family, who was the prince's fiancée, raised to become queen. Despite her impeccable appearance and unmatched talents, Ragnar recalled that Alicia's personality was absolutely the worst, as she was incredibly elitist and insulted the commoner protagonist. Alicia would show up every day with her entourage to insult the protagonist, telling her to know her place. As the protagonist deepened her relationship with the prince, Alicia's acts of harassment became numerous. The conflict ultimately escalated into a duel over the prince. Ragna recalled that the result of the duel was a crushing defeat for Alicia, and she was immediately stripped of her engagement to the prince on the spot. Alicia took responsibility for her actions and was sent to marry a frontier noble, if he remembered correctly. Ragna envisioned the scene of the simple, remote house in the frontier. The shock hit Ragna. The frontier noble's house was his family's house. The realization of his fate was overwhelming. Ragna sunk down onto his bed, convinced that living with that noblewoman was the worst possible outcome. He imagined a future of hellish verbal abuse every single day. Seabass appeared and informed the young master that the lady was about to arrive, causing Ragna to panic, realizing he would have to go to the academy with her from now on, seeing his future as nothing but despair. Ragna asked Seabass seriously what the point was of a lady raised solely for the crown prince coming to their house. Seabass lowered his voice, suggesting it was probably to ensure the Oldwood family's survival by getting rid of a nuisance and supporting the Brave family. Seabass reminded Ragna that the Brave territory had a high death rate. Seabass explained that after the war, those who survived were all working tirelessly to ensure the Brave family's survival. Seabass stated that the young master, Ragna, must also do his part. Ragna, conceding, said he knew. Ragna and Seabass stood outside, waiting for the carriage. A footman greeted the arriving lady and guided her inside. The lady, revealed to be Alicia, stepped out of the carriage. Alicia, with an intense look, entered the house. Seabass smiled, welcoming her and introducing himself, while Ragna, behind him, let out a frustrated ugh as Seabass loudly called for the young master. Alicia looked at Ragna and stated that he too reacted negatively to her face. Ragna, looking concerned, apologized for his reaction, explaining that he was concerned about the burn mark on her face and asked what had happened to her. Ragna smiled, assuring her that a burn like that was pretty common for people in the Brave territory. Alicia's eyes widened in surprise at Ragna's comment. She asked him if he truly considered such a mark common, to which Ragna replied, yes. Ragna thought to himself that Alicia's burn was probably something she got during the duel, contrasting it with the scars commonly found on soldiers and adventurers in the territory. He observed the wound was a noticeably big scar. He realized her beautiful face was ruined, and anyone who saw it would surely recoil, but decided it was perfect for living a life of shame. Ragna, shocked, noted that Alicia, a duke's daughter, had come alone without a maid or anything with her, as a man accompanying her took his leave. The departing man, presumably an envoy, said his goodbyes, and Alicia responded quietly. Ragna watched in silence as the carriage began to pull away, leaving her behind. He observed that the carriage was small, carrying only a single piece of luggage, and no attendants accompanied her, which was enough for him to grasp her low position. Alicia's expression looked as if she had given up on everything, closely resembling that of a captured soldier from an enemy nation. Ragna realized the situation was not at all what he expected, and he politely ushered her to come with him. He was still surprised, having been so sure she would behave outrageously and arrogantly as the villainess from the game. Ragna politely offered to show Alicia to her room, and she acknowledged him. As he guided her, Ragna reached out and gently touched her shoulder, asking her to wait a moment. He crushed something small with his fist with a loud sound. Ragna intently looked at the crushed remains on the ground. He looked at Alicia, telling her it was fine since his place was dustier anyway, and a tiny chibi version of Alicia agreed, while the real Alicia, looking puzzled, asked if she had some dust on her, explaining her outfit was old. Ragna stared, clenching his hand. He recalled the tiny bug-like creatures were demon bugs, which manifested from someone's grudge turning into a curse. He realized about 100 demon bugs were clinging to Alicia, noting the number corresponded to the immense amount of hostility she faced, and deduced that she had been hated a lot. Ragna thought that if an ordinary person were possessed by such a large number of demon bugs, they wouldn't be able to remain sane, yet Alicia remained calm without becoming ill. He looked thoughtfully at her. He began to reconsider his thoughts, wondering if the daughter of a noble, who was raised to eventually become a queen, would really cause a commotion. He realized that since this was the world of an otome game, Alicia's way of being might have been distorted to make the story more dramatic by having an antagonist. The game world was one twisted for the sake of convenience. He knew her ultimate fate in this world, concluding they were both having a tough time being tossed around by fate. Ragna recalled that even after her engagement was annulled, Alicia continued to harbor hatred, eventually making a pact with a demon, becoming a monster, and meeting her demise. He was terrified, realizing that the Brave territory was consumed in every route of the story by her revenge, and since he was not even a part of the original game, Alicia would definitely get to him. Ragna, sweating and clutching his head, realized his territory was doomed to destruction no matter how much he struggled. He determined that since they were both victims being dragged around by fate, he would help her turn over a new leaf and get her back on her feet. Ragna felt it would be better if they were doomed, either way, if she could look on the bright side. He looked at Alicia, dismissing the thought that something bad might happen while they were together. Ragna crushed another bug with his foot, declaring that if that time came, he would just kill the demon. Alicia, looking at him with a strange expression, said she wanted to resist this world. Ragna smiled, then quickly looked away, saying it was nothing. He told himself he would do his best to change her fate. Ragna smiled, wondering how long it had been since he was given a chance like this. Alicia stared blankly, processing Ragna's carefree attitude. He was given a chance for a carefree life by someone. The narrative noted that something unexpected, a strange idea, had sprouted in the heart of the villainous young lady, unnoticed by others. Alicia's eyes changed color, and she asked Ragna, "What?" as she declared again that she wanted to resist. 5 days had passed since Alicia arrived at the Brave household. During this time, she had stayed cooped up in her room, emerging only to eat the meals brought to her, never lashing out or speaking ill of anyone. As for Ragna, he was busy crushing the invisible demon bugs. Ragna, visibly annoyed, continued exterminating the irritating demon bugs, observing that they could be sent flying to a distant target using magic. He exclaimed to Seabass that there was an insane number of bugs and asked him for help, but Seabass only noted that the young master was certainly having a hard time. Ragna looked out the window and considered tracing the source and killing the originator, but Seabass warned that such a commotion would lead to the dissolution of the Brave house. Seabass shifted the focus, stating that it was more important right now to deal with Lady Alicia's heart, which was attracting the demon bugs, and stressed that the Brave family only knew how to fight. Seabass reassured the young master, saying he would be fine and musing over what a normal youth even was. Ragna then declared that he had a good idea. He knocked on Alicia's door. Ragna enthusiastically suggested they have breakfast together to increase their connection, and Seabass mentioned that the academy had a social event called a tea party that Ragna could imitate, while the young master announced that breakfast was ready. He continued his loud efforts, telling her to wake up and eat together, stating that everyone loves morning breakfast. Alicia's door finally opened, and Ragna was relieved, having been worried she might have done something drastic, while he was ready to break the door if she didn't open it. Ragna and Alicia sat at the table for breakfast, and Alicia muttered in exasperation about his persistence. Ragna was seen hammering something and told Alicia not to worry because fixing things was something he was well practiced in. Then he politely urged her to enjoy her breakfast and coffee, while Alicia chastised his rough actions and wondered what would have happened if the door had broken. Alicia took a sip of the coffee. She coughed, finding the coffee too bitter, and apologized, explaining that she usually only drank tea and this was her first time drinking coffee, which surprised Ragna, who asked what was wrong. Ragna apologized for not being able to prepare any sugar, explaining that it was so expensive in this world that they couldn't afford it, but Alicia assured him not to worry about it. She admitted the bitterness, but Ragna told her to be careful not to drink it before bed, or she wouldn't be able to sleep, and she confirmed she could drink it, enjoying the sweetness. Ragna continued to eat his breakfast quickly and noisily, while Alicia ate with smaller, more delicate bites. Alicia, looking at Ragna's meal, asked what he was eating, noting the large piece of meat that looked monstrous and asked if it wasn't poisonous, to which Ragna confirmed it was monster meat and explained that the boys of the Brave family were basically raised on it. Ragna explained that if you start eating monster meat from a young age, you get used to it, and it becomes an invaluable source of food during war, though the taste left a lot to be desired. Alicia then asked Ragna why he went out of his way to do all this himself. Ragna explained simply that they were short-handed because, while the servants would fight if needed, most of them had recently died in battle, and that was all there was to it. Alicia looked at him and said, "I see," an intense look in her eyes. Ragna then said that in the Brave family, a defeat without death was not considered a loss. He explained that what they honored the most was tenaciously surviving and standing back up, revealing the Brave family's core philosophy. Ragna reached out and gently touched the scar on Alicia's cheek. He told Lady Alicia she was a truly remarkable person and insisted that they do not deny their scars but feel proud of them. Ragna smiled, admitting he had his own scars as well, pointing to his head. Alicia was surprised by his closeness, and he explained it was a habit from inspecting soldiers' wounds. Then he invited her out. Ragna invited her to take a walk with him, saying that although the territory was in disarray, its nature was abundant and beautiful. Alicia mused that in the face of nature, human conflicts felt so small and insignificant in this land. After a moment of thought, Alicia agreed to go with him. She asked if he would show her around the land, and Ragna, with a delighted smile, agreed. They walked in the countryside, admiring the mountains and pine trees. Ragna led the way as they hiked up a rocky area. Alicia followed, looking distressed and muttering to herself that she said she'd go. She lamented that no one had mentioned the walk would take them this deep into the mountains, as Ragna held her hand to help her up a rocky path. Ragna pointed out that they were near the Udana mountain range, a massive range located near the Brave territory, which held rare plants and minerals not found in the royal capital. Alicia confessed that she had assumed they'd be looking at local specialty goods in a town, which Ragna said was understandable given her background, as she must have noticed on the way that they didn't have anything like that. He explained that this was no tourist town but only a rough settlement where the only people who came were adventurers hunting monsters. Ragna even shared a disturbing anecdote about someone placing a bet on his father dying in battle and profiting off it, noting that the only form of entertainment here was gambling, though Seabass took care of the gambler. Ragna quickly apologized for sharing the dark story, saying it wasn't the kind of story to share with a lady. Alicia, after a short pause, looked at him and said that if this was what was normal here, then it was fine, just like the coffee. Ragna thought that she was trying to adapt to this unfamiliar land, and suggested they take a little break. Alicia sipped water cupped in her hands, declaring that it was delicious. Ragna explained that the Udana mountain range had a high altitude and low evaporation, allowing them to enjoy pristine natural water. He told Alicia that the water's clarity was something she wouldn't find in the royal capital. Ragna observed that though this land may be fundamentally harsh and hard to accept, learning more about it could make it more bearable. He explained that enemies and allies alike live on the same earth, and to survive, one must never underestimate them, but understand them deeply and prepare yourself, a process which starts with learning about the land. Alicia acknowledged his words, saying she'd heard a proverb with the same meaning in a far-off world, and Ragna confirmed that was the teaching of the Brave family. Ragna explained that in this land, people decide everything for themselves based on their understanding of it, and they all fight for it. Alicia admitted she'd seen the expressions of the people living there and realized the Brave territory was not like the place she had heard about in the rumors, which Ragna acknowledged. He then mused that this was a place where people gambled with life and death for entertainment, and while a decision made after much contemplation was not to be laughed at, the people of the Brave territory did not laugh at all. Ragna, now climbing ahead of her, told Alicia to shake off her worries and move forward, saying their destination was just ahead, and she, winded, asked him to wait a second. Alicia caught up, telling him that he said they shouldn't laugh, and then told her to laugh. Ragna helped her up, their hands clasped together. He smiled, thinking she was a really good person. Alicia, with a surprised and intense expression, looked out at the vast land around her. The vast landscape of the territory stretched out beneath the bright sun. Alicia was visibly stunned by the view, exclaiming in awe, while Ragna smiled knowingly. Ragna commented that this was his favorite place, and although it might just be an ordinary view, he liked it. Alicia asked Ragna, referring to him as Lord Ragna, if she could ask him something, but Ragna interrupted, suggesting they have a light snack since she was probably hungry from all the walking. Ragna corrected her, telling her she didn't need to use polite language or honorifics, and that it was fine to just call him by his name, as he wasn't used to honorifics either. Alicia smiled, saying that here, formalities were just a small matter, which Ragna conceded was a bit in tone. Alicia then addressed him simply as Ragna, and he admitted she was right. She then described the feeling of making a decision after worrying endlessly, accepting the outcome, and making it her own. Ragna looked troubled, reflecting on the difficulty of finding a solution and wondering if time would solve anything, or if he would regret it even if the choice was unavoidable, asking what she would do. He stated that if you choose one side, you lose the other. Ragna grimly concluded that once things were lost, nothing could be done about them. Alicia asked Ragna what would happen if there was simply nothing left to lose. She continued, explaining that she had lived her whole life just for one purpose, and if she lost that, there would be nothing left. Alicia, distraught and raising her voice, declared that as a duchess, she had already died. She revealed that was why she had willingly come to this forsaken land. Ragna became concerned, wondering if it was really impossible to sever those feelings of regret, thinking about the persistent demon bugs. The older man, Seabass, appeared, telling Ragna to just face things honestly as he was, assuring him it would be fine, and calling the young master clumsy. Ragna firmly called out to Alicia. He made a vow to protect her from now on, always. Alicia looked completely shocked by his declaration. Ragna laughed, admitting his dashing line sounded awkward, even though he had practiced it for this moment, but he then made a serious promise that he would protect her no matter what. Ragna explained that the Alicia of the duchy was no more, but she was now Alicia of the Brave family, a ridiculous idea for which he had even done some image training with posh nobles from the royal capital. Alicia, with a subtle smile, conceded that maybe she was overthinking things, as Ragna suggested, but admitted she didn't dislike his straightforward and easy-to-understand approach. Alicia made a pinky promise with him, asking if he would still protect her, even though she knew returning to the academy with him might expose him to a lot of malice and hostility. Ragna was happy and confused, asking what she meant, but then he quickly agreed, saying he was good at dealing with that kind of thing and to leave it to him, shouting out the name Onyx. From behind them, the large black dragon, Onyx, revealed himself and stated that he had witnessed the vow between Ragna Brave and Alicia. Ragna smiled, confirming that the black dragon was indeed Onyx, his friend. The shock of the situation, especially the sight of the dragon, was too much for Alicia-sama, and she began to cry. Alicia suddenly fainted, which Ragna lamented as a sign of weakness, as their first date ended with many challenges ahead, having truly ended with a bang. Alicia calls out to Ragna in frustration, noting that it seems they've grown closer after their first date, while Ragna smiles and confirms his identity. Alicia demands to know about the dragon, asking what on earth it was, and the state of the room, while a silhouetted flying dragon is seen in the distance. Ragna calmly asks if she's talking about Onyx, explaining he thought making a vow in front of a dragon would be romantic. Ragna states he's glad, then explains that Onyx is a dragon that lives deep in the mountain range. Alicia asks why Ragna seems so calm, and he simply replies that thanks to the dragon's blessing, the demon bugs have disappeared. Seabass interjects, stating that the young master had previously challenged Lord Onyx to a one-on-one battle that ended in a draw, which is why the dragon acknowledged him, while Alicia notes she almost died. Seabass reassures Alicia it's okay, and Ragna, with a smug look, explains that it's fine because they were able to negotiate, commenting that she must have looked like a fool for panicking in this place. Alicia sighs, saying she understands, while Seabass observes that she will eventually no longer be surprised by anything here, just as he and others were constantly surprised when they first arrived. The last panel on this page contains only an untranslated speech bubble. Ragna looks surprised when Alicia suddenly asks him to lend her the stack of documents, admitting that even with his knowledge of modern society, this amount of work will take quite some time. Alicia then immediately begins sorting through the documents, concluding that the flow of money for one shop is strange, and commenting on a change in a purchasing period for another side, then asks Seabass to show her the past documents for confirmation. The close-up panels show the intense, determined focus in Alicia's eyes as she dedicates herself to the massive task. With huge stacks of paper surrounding them, Alicia sighs, phew, saying that the documents should be mostly sorted out now, as a maid and Ragna look on. Ragna smiles, admitting that modern times apparently lack in basic education, while Seabass praises Alicia, calling her very capable and a talented woman. The protagonist observes that when the demon bugs aren't attached to her, Alicia can smile just like a normal girl. The scene shifts to a different shot, showing a large man wiping sweat from his brow outside the house, while a maid and Alicia watch from inside the window. The maid is shocked and Ragna asks what's going on, and Alicia announces that she's going to help with the cleaning at the mansion after this, insisting she can't have Lady Alicia, her old self, do that. The maid tries to stop Alicia, but Alicia explains that she is a servant of the Brave family as a human and that she wants to experience things she hasn't done until now, as Seabass smiles and Ragna, looking tired, suggests they all do their best too. The scene changes to Ragna and Seabass outside, with Ragna asking if the price at a nearby weapon shop isn't unusually high, commenting on the merchant's demeanor, and Seabass quietly stating he must harden his heart after leaving part of the work for the young master. Seabass reveals that the individuals at the shop came from the royal capital, and their shop opened exactly on the day Lady Alicia arrived. Seabass explains that in this territory, where weapons are seen as consumables and don't make much money, These merchants are engaging in a business style of presenting their items as rare treasures only available in the royal capital, acting like royalty. Seabass then reveals his belief that the likely intention of these individuals is to keep a watchful eye on Alicia and asks Ragna what he plans to do. Ragna, looking serious at the sight of the buildings under a starry night, declares, "I'll pluck it." The young master sneaks out of the brave house at night and moves toward the town's buildings. Seabass had earlier warned Ragna that he had heard from a nearby adventurer that there are skilled individuals over at the shop, but Ragna simply asked where he had heard that from, while Seabass urged him to be careful. Seabass is then shown standing over an adventurer, who angrily explains that he got mad at the merchant's arrogant way of doing business and decided to try and steal something valuable. The adventurer shouts in distress, recalling that his right arm was gone before he even realized what happened and that he couldn't see the sword's movement at all. Seabass concludes that they cut off the adventurer's arm without even drawing their sword, which is highly unusual against the rough adventurers of this land. Seabass then deduces that the attacker is a magician or sorcerer, defining them as those who can freely manipulate magic essence, which is overflowing in this world. A hooded figure stands over fallen soldiers, and Seabass states that the ones who suffered the most damage during the war were those who had to deal with the magicians of enemy countries. Ragna, with a chilling gaze, concludes that the target is Alicia, and it seems like they really want to erase her. Ragna prepares for a frontal attack, making a noise like boom as he lunges toward the weapon shop. Ragna bursts into the establishment, where two men ask who he is, and Ragna asks them what they think he came here for. A third, stout man recognizes him immediately, shouting, "You are Ragna Brave," and asks why he came here, to which Ragna replies that they were the ones who made the first move. Ragna, adopting a calm posture, tells the group that it seems like they're snooping around our place, and promises that if they tell him the reason, he won't do anything too harsh. The two previously defeated men now stand armed with swords, surrounding Ragna, while the other man smirks in the background. Ragna calmly notes that it's becoming certain that they are defying him, asking if they are truly armed in front of the Lord. One of the men grins, saying they have no memory of laying a hand on anyone, and that if they silence Ragna's mouth here, there shouldn't be a problem, especially if they don't get caught with weapons. The stout man mocks Ragna for coming alone, calling him a naive third son. Ragna is shown easily dodging the incoming punch, labeling the attack as weak. He retaliates with a fierce counterpunch, sending one of the men flying across the room with a cry of, "Ah!" The two armed men are quickly defeated and lie on the floor groaning, "Ah!" as Ragna stands over them, flexing his hand. A cloaked figure, the magician, applauds the young master, marveling at his youth, strength, and wonders if he is a lord, calling him truly wonderful. The magician, now standing up, identifies himself and asks Ragna one question. The magician asks how Miss Alicia is doing. Ragna asks the magician what he means, while the magician smiles with a malicious, delighted expression, saying, "Hee hee hee." The magician bursts into maniacal laughter, imagining the so-called genius Alicia falling under the influence of his gift, calling her a prodigy. Ragna's eyes narrow as he realizes the truth, simply stating, "It's you." In a flash of raw power, Ragna brutally tackles the magician, shouting, "It's you." Ragna grabs the magician by the collar, furious that the magician kept sending a swarm of demon bugs day after day, and vows to teach him something about the Alicia of now. Ragna's maid is shown next to Alicia, stating that it's too bad for the magician, because Alicia is loved by everyone in the estate, is great at her work, and is living freely with a smile on her face. Ragna attacks the magician with a fast strike, calling out the attack's name, Praying Mantis. The magician is distraught, shouting in disbelief that he can't believe it, and that Lady Alicia is living freely with a smile. The magician admits that he had been sending his feelings to her every single day in a continuous curse to make her resent everyone around her, and Ragna confirms, "That's right." The magician attempts to escape, shouting that there's no way he'll let Ragna go. Ragna blocks the magician's attack with his forearm, and the magician shouts in despair, asking why he can't cut it and why anything you do to me is useless. Ragna delivers a powerful blow with his sword, declaring that this first strike is for their adventurer's arm. He then follows up with another powerful move, stating that the next one is for the amount of pests that the magician kept sending. Ragna offers the magician a final deal. He will spare his life if the magician tells him who is behind this. The magician screams out the name of the culprit, "Ignite, it's the Duke's family," and Ragna responds with an unnerving smile, saying, "I see, thank you," to which the magician mutters, "That's not good." Ragna then delivers the final strike, stating that this blow is for the trouble the magician caused Alicia. The magician's cloaked, decapitated body is shown, as the head repeatedly whispers, "I'll curse you, I'll curse you, I'll curse you." Seabass appears on the scene and asks the young master if it's over, and Ragna, with a satisfied, slightly feral grin, asks Seabass to clean up the aftermath, then reveals that he's already cursed. Outside at night, Ragna asks Seabass a question. When they go to the academy, is there any way to keep Alicia close to him? Seabass first asks if Ragna means under the same roof, and then jokes that becoming pregnant while still a student is somewhat premature, causing Ragna to deny that's what he meant. Ragna, ignoring the joke, insists that he just wants to be within the counting range where something happens so he can protect her, adding that it would be too late if he were counting on Seabass. The scene focuses on the exterior of a building under the night sky, a somber atmosphere hanging in the air. Ragna is left alone under the night sky, wondering when his heart stopped feeling anything and if this is the first time he's gone this far since avenging his father. He wonders if he'll be able to fit in at the academy. Meanwhile, Alicia receives a stack of documents, accepting them with an okay. Alicia is then seen working intently at a desk with a serious expression, preparing for the academy, thinking she needs to make sure various things about the academy are ready, wondering if the materials are enough. The narrative concludes that with feelings for each other in their hearts, the night deepens. A few months later, the image shows Ragna and Alicia preparing to leave, with Alicia in the foreground thinking about their departure tomorrow. Alicia laments that it's a shame she can't harvest the daikon radishes in time before leaving for the royal capital. The maid looks on as Alicia is seen in the distance doing work in the garden on her own, questioning if this is what a so-called villainous noblewoman is supposed to be doing. Ragna internally notes that resources once allocated to high education have now been redirected to household chores, resulting in the birth of a truly talented woman. A maid looks out at the sunrise over the wide, open landscape, visibly emotional. The maid is tearfully distraught, repeating Alicia's name. The entire household staff, including the crying maid, try to cling to Alicia, begging her, "Don't go," as she and Ragna stand by the departing carriage. The other staff members state that going to the academy is best left to the young master, and ask if it's perfectly fine for Lady Alicia to remain at the mansion, noting the difference in treatment. Alicia tells the maid that the vegetables will be sent to the academy soon, and asks her to please eat the radishes with everyone at the mansion. The maid then hands Alicia a collar that the young master used to wear when he was little, instructing her to use it to reprimand him in the event of any outrageous behavior, which makes Alicia question if it's a collar. The carriage begins to depart with the sound of the wheels turning. The staff loudly waves and sends them off, telling Ragna to please take care not to catch a cold and to eat his vegetables, with one member yelling that if something happens to Lady Alicia, Ragna will have to mop the floor as punishment. Alicia laughs and tells Ragna she's a bit envious that he is really loved by everyone. Ragna, with Seabass nearby, expresses surprise, thinking back that this is the first time in his life that he's traveled outside his territory. Ragna is then shown smiling, surrounded by the affectionate staff members before leaving. The carriage proceeds and Ragna says, "I'm leaving now." The landscape fades in the distance as the carriage moves away from the territory. Seabass informs them that they can see the royal capital now, as Alicia looks out the carriage window. Alicia looks serious and tells Ragna that what she's about to ask is pathetic, but she has a favor to ask. She then asks him to please show her how to buy a ticket when they arrive at the station. She continues, giggling, and asks if he could also show her how to ride the train. Alicia tells Ragna to leave it to her since it's Ragna's first outing after all, and Ragna shouts for her not to laugh while blushing. He wonders if they should put a collar on him to avoid getting lost since the royal capital is going to be crowded with people, as he stares at a person in the crowd. Ragna looks surprised, suddenly understanding the deeper implication of the collar. They arrive at the royal capital Ether, a circular city protected by a barrier, with more than 1 million people living there. Walking through the crowded city, Ragna notes that there are no wars and only a few monsters here, wondering no wonder everyone gathers here, though it feels a bit cramped compared to the Brave territory. They look around at the various street merchants selling goods. Ragna asks if the dormitory they're going to is within the school grounds, and Alicia confirms, noting that there are separate dormitories for boys and girls, which makes him look forward to it. They stop and look at their assigned living quarters, which appear old and run down. Ragna and Alicia stare at the incredibly run-down, dilapidated house they've arrived at, with Ragna saying, "So this is the dormitory we'll be living in." Ragna shouts in disbelief, asking if it's shabby and if boys and girls are living together. Alicia holds a letter, telling Ragna to look, explaining it's a letter from Seabass, while Ragna realizes the dorm is really far from the school. She explains the contents of the letter. Seabass has spread the word that living in a rundown dormitory and facing public humiliation should convince the nobles opposing her return. Alicia says yes, noting that if no one is around, it's actually convenient, and she might grow vegetables in the courtyard, but notes that cleaning is necessary. Ragna's face is shadowed in shock as he reads the final, unexpected line of the letter. The condoms are in the young master's room. Ragna asks Alicia if she has any questions, thinking that Seabass had honestly just wanted to ensure the two of them lived together. The letter's final postscript advises the young master that he needs to pass the exam to enter the same upper class as Lady Alicia, wishing him good luck. Ragna looks stressed, muttering that he has to pass the exam even if he manages to pass. The scene shifts to a grand building, the Ethernam Academy, which gathers almost all the noble children of this country, where the classes are divided according to rank. A visual guide explains that the upper class is for those with the possibility of marriage with royalty, and if not, it's the lower class. The guide continues, saying that if their magic or knowledge is recognized as exceptional, even commoners could enroll under the status of descendants of sages. Ragna clutches a book, which describes the vague setting of their upcoming school life, saying he can picture it. Despite everything, Ragna's resolve is already set, noting that they are just nobles from a remote land and a villainess. He smiles, saying that if it's a contest he will show Alicia that they can win. Ragna, with a serious expression, vows that he'll show her they can win. Ragna rushes in front of a grand building, shouting that he is late. Ragna apologizes to the teacher for getting a bit lost since it's his first time here, with the teacher grumbling about a noble from a remote land keeping the upper-class teacher waiting. The teacher mutters, "Tisk, you're such a slowpoke," indicating he expected this outcome. The teacher tells Ragna that they'll start with the basic magic test and instructs him to shoot his maximum output at the magic testing device. Ragna asks if there are any specific requirements for magic, and the teacher impatiently tells him there aren't any, so hurry up and do it. The teacher, arms crossed, asks himself, "Good grief, why me?" While Ragna focuses on being the examiner for this test. Ragna aims his hand at the device, pointing directly at it. The teacher looks shocked and shirtless, realizing the immense power of the burst of magic. The magic force is immense, blowing a hole in the wall of the academy. The hole in the wall is massive, showing the sheer destructive power Ragna unleashed. The magic testing device is shattered on the ground, leaving the teacher speechless with a stunned expression, asking, "Huh?" Ragna calmly asks the teacher, "Did I pass?" While the teacher sweats profusely, asking who Ragna is and what just happened, telling Ragna there are more tests. The teacher composes himself, telling Ragna that he has some skill in magic, but unfortunately, he will never pass this test. Ragna is then shown holding a wooden sword, ready for the next test. The teacher then announces the rules of the swordsmanship test. If Ragna defeats him, he passes. The teacher adds that magic is prohibited and that if Ragna can't fight anymore, he fails. The teacher is shown defeated and angry, calling Ragna a barbarian, while Ragna smiles and says he understood and that they should finish this quickly. Ragna is shown squatting down. The fight is clearly over. Ragna holds the broken remnants of the wooden sword, observing that his was just a normal wooden sword, but the teacher's had iron inside, noting, "That's strange, isn't it?" Ragna accuses the teacher of intending to fail him if he couldn't fight anymore, while the school principal suddenly arrives, asking about all the commotion. The imposing school principal stands, looking seriously at Ragna, who is now looking surprised at the principal's arrival, asking if the destruction was his doing, and wondering if this unexpected encounter at the academy will turn out to be good or bad. An untranslated speech bubble and the continuation note Vorzia Grand Cascade. The school official addresses the school director standing before Ragna, confirming that today is the transfer exam. The man holding the title of sage and coming from one of the ducal houses is shown, with Ragna thinking it would be troublesome if he caught the man's attention. The school director stares intently at Ragna, who stands stiffly before him. After a moment of tension and Ragna's shocked expression, the school director concludes, "You pass." The teacher who administered the tests reacts with surprise, asking if the decision is really okay, but the school director explains it's fine as there is little difference in Ragna's bloodline between the higher and lower ranks, and Ragna mutters his thanks. The school director then asks Ragna if he wishes to join the upper class. Ragna, looking serious, claims that it's not like he desperately wants to join or anything. He continues, looking determined, thinking about Alicia. He states with conviction that there is someone he must protect here, prompting the school director to agree, very well. The teacher, wearing a heavy cloak, angrily objects to the decision, shouting that Ragna was born in the Forsaken Lands and his fiancée just caused an incident, demanding to know what the two of them are going to do next. But the school director ignores him and acknowledges Ragna's admission into the upper class. The school director immediately shouts down the protesting teacher, calling him a "you idiotic fool." The school director asks the teacher who he thinks he is in this academy, telling him that if he says there is a problem, he should act like a teacher and show the way before trouble arises. The teacher, looking chastised, quietly concedes with an apology. The school director gives Ragna a final warning, telling him to be mindful of maintaining a proper and decent relationship with Alicia, as they are allowing them to use that dormitory as a special exception. A full white page provides a moment of transition. Ragna arrives back at the shared dormitory with Alicia, saying, "I'm home," while pondering that the school director also helped the protagonist level up in the game. Alicia runs up to Ragna, asking if he is okay and if they said anything weird to him. Ragna reassures her that he is fine. Ragna, noticing Alicia is already wearing the uniform, asks why she is wearing it and if it's for a fitting, concluding that her appearance is cute, but it doesn't matter. Alicia reveals that she passed the exam, admitting that it wasn't exactly an exam she was dying to take, but she made sure she passed after they put her through the ringer, making Ragna wonder what happened. Ragna then asks Alicia what exactly her magic disease is, mentioning he's been wondering for a while. Ragna replies that his condition is difficult to explain, admitting that he can use all the basic magic, but gesturing to a diagram showing various magical attributes. Alicia then grabs a large cabbage, stating that the thing she is best at is dash, which is interrupted by a loud growl from her stomach. A close-up, silent panel emphasizes the awkward moment between them. Alicia blushes deeply, clearly embarrassed by the noise. In a chibi panel, Alicia's embarrassment is clear as she says they need to make something nutritious and urges Ragna to have dinner, noting that they'll be busy at the academy starting tomorrow. Ragna tells Alicia to let him know if there's a troublesome person at the academy, but Alicia reminds him that using force is forbidden. Alicia assures Ragna that she doesn't mind whatever is said to her at the academy, especially since he's there too. Ragna looks at Alicia with a serious expression, telling her that she is probably stronger than him. Ragna clarifies that he means a person who can endure mental pain, calling it something even seasoned soldiers rarely have. Alicia is shown with a confident look, stating she knows who she is, because she knows herself, while the background shows the academy and a sunrise. Ragna and Alicia walk onto the academy grounds, dressed in their uniforms, as other students whisper about the situation, noting the scar from the duel and asking who the man next to her is. Another student whispers that even though Alicia-sama was beautiful, there's no way she can get married at this point, concluding the matter with a desire to be peaceful. A third student appears to consider the disgraced Alicia, noting that since her status has dropped, maybe he can make her his concubine. The student who was considering the concubine idea suddenly faints, causing a commotion among his friends, while Ragna, having just directed a little killing intent at the student, asks Alicia, who told him to stop it, what she means. The scene shifts to a large classroom with a female teacher conducting a lecture. Ragna sits in class, realizing that his quick burst of killing intent made the student faint, and he connects the situation to a game plot point where the protagonist in the final stage awakes as a saint. Ragna thinks about the game's protagonist, a beautiful girl, like the clear blue sky. Ragna, answering a class question, loudly gives the unexpected answer, Mariana Ocean, confidently stating, yes, to a problem. The magic that the sage used most frequently was the one with no attribute, and to master this magic, one would need to reach the pinnacle of nothingness. The girl who Ragna was looking at answers the question correctly, puffing up her cheeks with a victorious, smug expression, as Ragna watches her. Ragna realizes that the girl, who is wearing glasses, is actually the heroine of the game. Alicia is shown with a surprised and blushing expression as she observes Ragna and the heroine. The teacher confirms the heroine's answer, stating, correct, even though it was a trick question. The heroine, Mariana Ocean, looks surprised and embarrassed as she hears the teacher, who is known as the sage's pupil, confirm her answer. Ragna, sitting behind the heroine with his arms crossed, notes that this is the fourth seat-switching incident this month because students keep trying to move her, concluding, poor girl, but thinking the whole time that she's the heroine of an otome game and suggesting someone switch seats with her. Ragna considers that a girl with Mariana's innocent appearance is supposed to start a school romance with the prince, and Mariana, looking upset and holding her cracked glasses, internally laments that if she had known this would happen, she would have asked for a seat closer to the front. When a girl offers to switch seats with her, Mariana quickly declines with a wide smile, saying it's totally fine and she'll manage somehow on her own, leaving the other girl to sigh and accept the rejection. The teacher calls out Mariana Ocean and announces that in the next seat change, she'll be assigned the seat in front of the podium, saying, "Understood." Mariana apologizes profusely to the girl in front of her, saying, "I'm so sorry," while Ragna looks on muttering, "Alicia." The scene shifts to the rundown dormitory on a holiday, with Ragna thinking, "Who exactly were you fighting?" Alicia is shown holding a wooden bowl and asks Ragna, with a question mark over her head, why he looks so bothered, and he thinks he can't ask something like that. Then she declares that men who dig up the past are absolutely no good. Suddenly, they hear a loud crash, and Ragna's hand is raised in front of him. Alicia cries out in shock, covering her head as broken glass and wood fragments fly from the dormitory wall. Alicia is horrified by the terrible damage, asking what Ragna did, and he calmly explains that it was a hidden barrier and he'll have to fix it later. Ragna explains that the magic he is using is a transparent barrier of the holy attribute, and it is the same as the guardian barrier that covers the royal capital. Alicia asks Ragna to wait, questioning how he can use magic without incantations, to which he replies that the barrier is convenient in many ways. Ragna demonstrates the ease of his spell, gesturing as he explains that everyone generally thinks of barriers as walls, showing an opaque wall form. Alicia reacts with surprise, saying, "Why?" as Ragna continues his demonstration. Ragna explains that with chantless casting, the barriers can be made into all sorts of shapes, demonstrating by doing things like a floating cup. Alicia looks at the magically floating coffee cup with wide, astonished eyes. Ragna asks if there are other differences between ordinary barriers and the ones in the royal capital, looking at the floating coffee cup he created. Alicia nods, explaining that advanced barriers can be freely controlled, giving the example that one can choose what things to let through, like magic but not people. Ragna then confirms that there are some things it can't do, such as separating things that are already blended together, like sugar or milk mixed into coffee. Alicia then changes the subject, asking Ragna, "By the way, if you're free later, want to go out?" She then explains that they're out of Alicia's coffee and the beans she brought have run out. Alicia suggests she knows a place with delicious coffee. Ragna is astonished, asking, "You have friends?" in that kind of situation, and thinks that this is just what he would expect of Alicia, while she explains that a friend told her about it, as they walk together trying to find the place. Alicia explains that while she was studying at the library during lunch, someone talked to her because the friend also seemed to like coffee, and they became friends, and the friend told her about this coffee shop. They arrive at a place with a sign for a coffee specialty shop called Ocean, and Alicia confirms, "We're here." The shop bell rings, ding dong, as Ragna stares, wondering, "This is... no way, could it really be?" The door opens and the heroine Mariana greets them, asking, "Huh? Aren't you Alicia?" Mariana states that she was wondering what was going on since Alicia and Ragna were just standing in front of the store, staring. Alicia introduces Ragna, telling Mariana, "Yes, this is Ragna," and Mariana realizes that Ragna is the person who really loves coffee. Mariana acknowledges Ragna, saying, "Nice to meet you." Ragna, looking surprised, asks Mariana if she is in the same class as him, and she replies, "Yeah. We've never actually talked though." Mariana is shocked, apologizing profusely and thinking she can't believe someone of nobility came here, and questions why Alicia is together with this person, asking Ragna if he is of noble status, and Alicia says, "He's my fiancé." Mariana then drops to the floor, terrified, apologizing for not realizing Ragna's noble status, asking if she should be executed, while Alicia tries to reassure her, saying, "You won't be executed." As Ragna and Alicia sit inside the shop, Ragna sighs that it had to turn out so disappointing because she's the main heroine. Alicia tells Mariana that she is the one who should apologize, saying that Alicia didn't do anything wrong, and Mariana apologizes for losing her composure and for being the one who suddenly spoke to her. Mariana, still smiling, explains that she was just excited thinking she might finally make a friend. Mariana reveals her mistake. She saw Alicia drinking coffee in the library and mistakenly thought she was a commoner like her. Ragna is stunned, realizing that in this world, coffee is considered a commoner drink, and he sees another girl dressed like a servant, causing him to wonder if this is different from the game and if there is another of the sage's disciples. Alicia tells Mariana that she is correct, and that's why Alicia was acting alone, because everyone was avoiding her commotion. Mariana, still surprised, wonders why she didn't know about the uproar over the decision, thinking about the incident that was happening without her knowledge. Mariana explains her absence from the uproar. She ended up taking the wrong carriage to the academy that day. Ragna questions this, noting that it happened right on the day of an important event, and wonders if it's a coincidence or maybe not, asking why the carriage went somewhere else. Mariana is told that people said she is a genius at magic, but she is kind of scatterbrained, right? Mariana defensively agrees that she is good at magic, but her parents said that in everything else she is useless. Ragna asks about her parents, but Mariana cuts him off, looking sad. Mariana reveals that her parents are dead, having died a year ago due to illness, but the reason she is here now is thanks to her parents. Mariana offers Ragna and Alicia some coffee, apologizing that she invited them but still hasn't served them anything. Alicia takes a sip of the coffee and exclaims, "Wow, it's delicious." Alicia tells Mariana the coffee is amazing, noting that it's completely different from Ragna's, and Ragna simply agrees, "Indeed." Seabass, who is sitting nearby, smoking and drinking his own cup of coffee, comments on the coffee's bitterness, asking Ragna if it's a metaphor for his life, making Ragna question what he means. Mariana, overreacting to Ragna's supposed coffee mastery, declares that she shall call him her mentor from now on, while Ragna and Alicia quickly try to tell her he is just kidding. Mariana admits that it's strange that they are nobles, yet they're not scary at all. Ragna asks Mariana why she has such a noble allergy, noting that she only has a faint memory of something. Mariana recounts a story a neighborhood kid told her a long time ago, warning her that if you defy the nobles, even a little, you'll be killed. Mariana reveals that during the same period she was hit by a noble's carriage. She says that just as that child said, the people in the carriage showed no sign of caring about her as she lay on the ground. Mariana explains that because of that accident, her eyesight worsened, and her parents heard that coffee improves vision, so they started drinking it as a family. Mariana then giggles, saying that before they knew it, the whole family had become coffee fanatics. Mariana, excitedly, says, "Yes," and asks if Ragna knows that among her skills, the one she's best at is, and then asks Ragna if he knows that she's good at magic. Mariana reveals her best skill is recovery magic, which is the power to heal people, and Alicia reacts with shock, asking if that isn't extremely rare. Mariana explains that in this world, very few people can use recovery magic on others, but in the game, Saint Mariana can heal any disease, exorcise demons, and even regenerate lost limbs. Mariana looks sad, revealing that she couldn't help her sick parents a year ago, which is why she studied hard, so that if she ever has someone precious again, she'll be able to save them. Mariana looks around and notes that there aren't any other customers in the coffee shop, asking, "Huh?" Ragna apologizes, explaining that he was the last one to come in, and he closed the door when entering. Mariana, now wearing the collar that the maids gave Alicia, woofs and tells Ragna that he is obstructing business and must open it immediately. Mariana quickly laughs, telling Ragna it's okay because she's been closing on holidays anyway to focus on her studies. A scene setter shows a beautiful view of the academy buildings at night. Ragna and Alicia are standing outside the coffee shop, and Ragna, looking at the door, asks if Mariana isn't going to enter the dormitory since, as a sage's child, she should be exempt from various things. Mariana smiles sweetly, confirming she's not going to enter the dormitory because she likes this house. Ragna and Alicia see the school director, who gives Mariana some papers and tells her that her living expenses and tuition fees are provided on the condition that she achieve excellent grades, and that they are diverting a portion of the dormitory fees to her. Mariana, with a blushing face, tells Alicia that if she has any problems at the academy, she must let her know. Alicia blushes and tells Mariana that those words alone are enough, thanking her, as a chibi version of the heroine is shown saying, "Wow, dazzling." Mariana then looks at Ragna and demands, "Ragnarsson, please give me Alicia," to which Ragna immediately replies, "Absolutely not." Ragna and Alicia walk back towards the academy at night. Ragna asks Alicia if Mariana is a good girl, right? Alicia, smiling, explains that when she saw Mariana for the first time, she had the same eyes as Ragna, someone who looked straight at her with such beautiful eyes. Ragna says he understands, noting that people with a strong core turn out that way, right? Alicia asks Ragna if he has seen someone like that too, and Ragna replies with a confident yes to her question. Ragna and Alicia stand close together at night, with Ragna telling Alicia that she has eyes that carry a strong will, resisting fate, calling them both beautiful and cute. Ragna then laughs, noting that he's not really the princely type, and Alicia teases him about playing prince, as the narrator notes that the two of them casually flirted with each other. A color page showing Ragna and Alicia with a few maids and a servant in a beautiful, open field. Alicia the villainess confronts Mariana the mere commoner protagonist. It explains the two girls were fated to be locked in battle until one of them is destroyed. The present reality shows the complete opposite. Alicia and Mariana are having lunch together, with Mariana admiring Alicia's mixed sandwich and Alicia kindly offering her one. Ragna looks on from afar, smiling, and concludes that harmony among friends is a beautiful thing. Alicia looks contemplative, asking herself how did it end up like this? Mariana is seen in the classroom alone, wondering where Ragna went since he disappeared somewhere right away when break time started, even though he takes his classes seriously. Alicia wonders if the criticism and talk about her being abandoned in the wasteland will probably increase now that she is spending time with Mariana. Alicia thinks about the oddity of the protagonist and the villainous noblewoman to get along, asking what kind of fate this is, but concludes that she is fine with being a side character. Alicia thinks back to the original game world where Alicia lost the duel and was driven into the frontier territory, while the commoner protagonist was spending her school life peacefully. Alicia concludes that in this world, Mariana is not the one she must fight. A concerned Alicia asks herself just who was it that defeated her in the original timeline. Ragna is shown looking tense with a troubled expression. Ragna reasons that the prince caused the duel in the game, and he is curious about what's going on. Ragna is seen standing on a roof above the academy grounds, deciding he will investigate a bit. He spots his targets, a group of girls swooning and shouting, "Kaya Kaya, Edward-sama," and realizes he's found them. The central focus is on a handsome prince, Edward Gran Etherdam, who politely forgives the girls for bothering him but says he has a promise with someone for lunch. Ragna observes from a distance, identifying him as Alicia's former fiancé. Ragna recalls that the prince's route in the game was considered the classic route. Ragna dismisses Edward as the tutorial stage prince and an easy opponent, thinking the creators were practically telling you, start by beating this one. The prince, Edward, is waiting alone, realizing that if things go according to the story, she should be deepening her relationship with the protagonist, then shouts, "Sorry to have kept you waiting." A different girl, a beauty with blonde hair, happily greets the prince, saying she just got here and addresses him as Your Highness. Edward looks at the girl, whose name is Patricia, and gently corrects her, saying it's not Your Highness, but rather Edward, right? And she replies, "I'm truly honored." Edward reminds Patricia that she called him by his name when they first met in the castle town before entering school. Patricia looks surprised, remembering that she didn't know he was royalty back then, and Edward smoothly replies that their reunion at the academy is fate. Patricia, blushing, manages to start to say his name. She finishes the pronunciation, saying, "Ward." Ragna observes the scene from a distance, looking shocked at the level of public affection and thinking, it's embarrassing. Ragna looks at Alicia and Mariana, noting to himself that Patricia was not a character with that name in the game, and wonders if that person did she replace Mariana? Ragna sees Edward and Patricia sitting on a bench and thinks that he needs to watch that person, really, as he hears another group of handsome men telling Edward to, "Whoa there." The new group of attractive male students arrives, all exclaiming, "We are also here," and telling Edward they won't let him get ahead of them, with one muttering that Patricia is a bad person for managing to capture all of their attention. Ragna, wide-eyed, realizes that those guys are all romanceable targets from the original game and concludes, which means, the men gather around Patricia, shouting, "Reverse harem," and, "Everyone, let's have lunch together." Edward sighs, telling the men to restrain themselves, thinking that Patricia must be having a hard time. Patricia, smiling innocently, confirms she's fine, revealing she's made extra portions as usual, and asks, "So shall we eat?" Ragna, observing the scene, realizes that Patricia is completely taking over the protagonist's position, and the fact that this reverse harem situation is actually happening means she has triggered all the flags of all the romanceable men. Ragna thinks that if it were just Edward alone, that might be one thing, but it is really problematic to keep multiple partners since these guys are all in the position to inherit the family headship and should all have a fiancé. He decides he has no intention to get involved with the reverse harem group, though he notes it wouldn't be surprising if someone mysteriously died a strange death after graduation. Ragna concludes that there's one person that needs to be watched carefully, thinking, just as I thought. Ragna identifies this person as Jalasis Gran Ignite, the second son of the Ignite family, who is sitting alone, and Ragna thinks that it's tastier to eat here together with everyone rather than at the cafeteria, wondering why he's alone. Ragna is worried, thinking that given the fact the Ignite family has targeted him, he should check, asking the seated, mysterious girl if she happens to know that the magician over there was causing a commotion in the Brave territory. The girl, who wears a metal collar and chain, sternly advises Ragna to calm down, as rushing in carelessly is a bad move, and she remembers that Guy was a troublesome character. Ragna recalls the game lore. Jalasis is a concubine's child who was born as insurance for the eldest son who will inherit the Ignite family. Ragna recalls that Jalasis's route is a dark story said to be an effort to rescue him and others from their complicated and heavy family situation. Ragna recognizes Jalasis as a dangerous guy who can change completely depending on your choices. Ragna decides to leave Jalasis alone for now, noting that although he thought they'd cross paths eventually, they haven't even met once, especially given the fact that the Ignite family has targeted him. Ragna concludes that all he wants is for Alicia to live a peaceful life and to prevent the possible ruin that may come in the future. Ragna crouches down, thinking that in order to do that he must act decisively. A cloaked figure, the school director, criticizes Ragna, telling him that peeking like that is something he doesn't admire. The school director confronts Ragna on a rooftop, standing with powerful magic swirling around him. The school director, Valzia, asks Ragna what he came up here for, and Ragna quickly retorts that he is the last one who should be saying that climbing to the roof is dangerous. Ragna tells the school director that he has something he wants to ask, and this is the perfect timing. Ragna is still focused on the odd situation with Patricia, noting there's no doubt that girl is an impossible reverse harem, and the blackness remaining at the roots of her unnatural blonde hair is suspicious. Ragna asks the school director to please tell him about the student named Patricia, suspecting that she is a reincarnator like him. The scene shifts, with Ragna and other people in armor standing in a rocky, dungeon-like location, asking why the monsters in the dungeon vanish into mist without leaving any corpse behind. One person suggests that if they bring back the soil of the wall, they might find something, noting that this place was created by ancient sages. Ragna, holding a shovel, looks intrigued, thinking there are so many mysteries, it's intriguing. Mariana is suddenly enveloped in a magical circle, looking surprised with a Ragna and Alicia look on in shock, with Ragna shouting, "Mariana!" and asking if she drew something insane. Mariana and Alicia in a dungeon-like setting. Alicia asks Ragna to please tell her everything about the student named Patricia, including her origin, her past, and the magic she is good at. Ragna, looking serious, acknowledges the name Patricia Kindred, wondering if he can uncover the truth about the second reincarnated person. The school director, Valzia, denies any secret manipulation, stating he doesn't know what Ragna is talking about and that Patricia was granted admission only after going through the entrance examination. Ragna internally reasons that if the strange events were Patricia's scheme, then there must have been a noble who helped switch the carriage to deliberately separate the protagonist, Mariana, during the event. Ragna concludes that the noble involved is most likely the Ignite family. Ragna accepts Valzia's point about caution, thinking it is probably better to have the potential conspirators enrolled rather than leave them unchecked, as long as they don't know their objective. Ragna sighs, thinking it would be nice to live peacefully, wouldn't it? And Valzia agrees that is true. Valzia questions why Ragna, a student of the academy who has the right to enjoy his youth, is living such a constrained life. Ragna claims that he is content to be behind the scenes and must only endure it for 3 years, acting this way because he is a noble from the Forsaken Lands. Valzia, looking upset, challenges Ragna, asking if he has forgotten the pride of the Brave family. Ragna stands silently as Valzia explains that the blood of the brave naturally resists even in harsh conditions until their very last breath, forcing Ragna to admit he always thought it was something that just clings on desperately. Valzia shouts at Ragna, asking if his resolve is really that weak. Ragna's eyes narrow, showing his true, aggressive resolve. Ragna throws a furious punch at Valzia. Ragna's punch connects squarely with Valzia's face, shaking the ground. Nearby students react with shock and fear, hearing a rumbling in the ground and crying out, "Kaya!" The academy building visually reacts to the powerful shockwave. Ragna's fist is halted just inches from Valzia's cheek, leaving a massive impact mark on the wall behind him. Ragna tells Valzia that he won't forgive him if any harm comes to Alicia, adding that this is the situation he wanted and he is just acting accordingly. Valzia calmly accepts the challenge, telling Ragna, "Fine," and instructing him to prove it if that's what he wishes for. Valzia then asks Ragna if he believes in fate. Ragna questions the meaning of fate, asking if Valzia is talking about this shitty scenario. Valzia explains that Mariana Ocean is a child with a strong fate that is now distorting on a massive scale and spiraling into madness. Valzia warns that this country will probably be divided between Light and the people in the academy who also possess a strong fate. Valzia gives Ragna the task to protect Mariana, who has lost her guardian, noting that right now, she has no strength to resist at all. Valzia concludes that Mariana's destiny isn't meant to be in a small world. Instead, Mariana's destiny lies somewhere else, in a different place. Mariana, now back in the dungeon, looks nervous, admitting, "I'm getting nervous." Mariana, looking at Ragna, asks if this is her first time in a dungeon, to which Ragna replies, yes, and wonders how much Valzia knows about the mission to protect her. Mariana looks at the others in the practical training dungeon, and admits, "I'm scared." Edward and Patricia are together in the dungeon, with Patricia saying she is just so weak and thanking Edward, who replies that he will protect her. Ragna, seeing Edward hugging Patricia, thinks the dungeon is really just a way to get closer with the conquest targets. Ragna realizes that there is an important event hidden deep inside the dungeon, the sacred relic, and asks what to do about the fake romance happening. Ragna is distracted by Alicia arriving, and his heart races, as he thinks she looks like a battle-hardened adventurer. A noblewoman, Lady Katerina, insults Mariana, calling her a commoner who is trying to cling to the academy by cozying up to the other students, with her attendant agreeing and calling Mariana a persistent woman. The noblewoman then focuses on a different girl who used to be next to Alicia, mocking her drills and calling her a drill head. The same noblewoman comments on the presence of so many lowlifes in the dungeon, mocking even filthy monkeys from the slums and peasants who are pretending they belong. The noblewoman sneers that this is an academy for refined nobles. The same noblewoman then faces Alicia and Mariana, menacingly asking if she should drive the filthy beings out for them. Alicia responds with a calm, single word, "Hey." Alicia steps forward, looking intimidating in her adventurer gear, as Ragna looks on in surprise. Ragna looks surprised, asking, "Alicia? What's the matter?" Alicia ignores Ragna and addresses the noblewoman, Ekaterina, calmly wishing her good day, but then sharply demands to know who let the commoners run rampant in the academy and insults Ekaterina, calling her a damaged failure. Alicia then tells Ekaterina that if it's Alicia she hates, she can hate her all she wants, as Alicia has done enough to deserve it. Alicia insists that this girl has nothing to do with it. Alicia then turns her attention back to Ekaterina, telling her that if she has something on her mind, she can request a duel or anything else. Alicia warns Ekaterina that she doesn't think she can win against either the sage's disciples or Alicia herself. Ekaterina shouts a mocking insult at Alicia, telling her to just spend her whole life drinking coffee, and accuses her of getting cocky just because she built a monkey mountain. Alicia smiles, accepting the insult, and agrees that she is going to drink it because she likes coffee. Ekaterina and her attendant shout that the smell of beans is unbearable and that the conversation is a buzzkill, then angrily leave the dungeon. Ragna watches them leave, sighing, "I knew it." Alicia apologizes to Ragna, saying, "I'm sorry," and that it's her fault she got caught up with some weird person, but Ragna simply says, "Alicia, you are strong." Alicia tells Ragna that he looked cool and that she ended up liking him, and Ragna admits, "That's why I feel so strongly." Alicia then asks about the insults, noting that they made fun of coffee and that the person called Alicia a damaged one, asking Ragna if she should kill them. A dark, rocky pathway is shown in the dungeon. Alicia, with an innocent look, is walking through the dungeon. Ragna and Alicia walk into a large, crystal-filled cavern, with Ragna noting, "So this is the dungeon." Mariana smiles, exclaiming that the traps and monsters kept welcoming them one after another. Mariana apologizes, assuming it is her fault they are at the front of the line. Alicia cries out Ragna's name, asking if both of them are okay, as a monster attacks. Ragna calmly catches the monster's spear, explaining that there's always a protective barrier created just a few millimeters around his body. Ragna, still holding the spear, explains that the magic is an extraordinary skill, but if his magical power runs out, it will penetrate. Ragna reveals that the barrier was created long ago when he was close to dying, and it comes from the idea that if you cover your entire body, you won't be afraid. Ragna explains that he has been putting it into practice the whole time and can now do it without thinking. Mariana asks Ragna if the Brave Territory is really such a scary place, and Ragna simply says, "No. It's a really nice place." Alicia suggests that since it's a good opportunity, They should try some training in the mountains during summer break, and Mariana excitedly agrees, saying she'd love to go. Ragna concludes that with this training, everyone will be a user of chantless magic in the Brave-style boot camp. Alicia, smiling, tells Ragna to do his best, but don't kill her, and Ragna confidently replies, "Leave it to me." Ragna urgently shouts, "Mariana," as she is engulfed in a magic circle. The powerful teleportation pulls Ragna and Alicia in as well, leaving the reader to wonder what awaits beyond the leap. The three are tossed through a dark, swirling vortex of magic. Ragna surveys the strange, low-level dungeon environment, asking, "What is this place?" Ragna quickly deduces that this scenery looks familiar and it's probably the lowest level, as Alicia looks on in surprise. Mariana, the apparent protagonist of the game, triggered a teleportation trap with Ragna noting that this behavior is just as expected of the protagonist, while she points out that the wall is quite impressive as well. Ragna, worried about the strange dungeon monsters, quickly confiscates Mariana's pickaxe, telling her that personal safety is the top priority and that if she dies here, she'll never be able to drink coffee again. Mariana, unbothered by the sudden teleportation, pours coffee from a small flask, smiling and offering some, warning that this could be the last coffee of their lives, while Alicia asks how she even managed to get it and why she's carrying it. Ragna and Alicia decide to join in and have some of the coffee, confirming that it's true that it's important to bring your own food into the dungeon. Ragna is glad that both of them are surprisingly calm despite the precarious situation. Ragna mentally reviews the worst-case scenario. If they end up falling all the way to the bottom of the dungeon, help won't arrive and it's likely game over, adding that it's also impossible to eat the monsters here. Ragna smiles confidently at Alicia, saying, "However." Alicia expresses her concern, noting that they didn't learn about a place like this in class and can't even call for help, asking Ragna if he knows something because he seems very calm in this very dangerous situation. Ragna reassures Alicia, telling her she'll be fine because there's something they can do once they catch their breath. Ragna confirms that once they're ready, they're going to head to the deepest part of the dungeon. The trio continues moving deeper inside the mysterious dungeon toward a large dark alcove. Alicia, remembering the game's lore, sees her past self in the magic circle and wonders who defeated her, knowing that she, Alicia, is the villain in the game, which is something she used to do. Ragna looks intently at Alicia as she reflects on her fate. Ragna states that now that the dungeon visit has happened, they have no choice but to move forward, especially since a pendant necessary for the strategy is located deeper inside. Ragna recalls the sacred relic, an important item to save the country near the end of the story, which is lying dormant in the dungeon's deepest chamber. Ragna recalls that in the game, the pendant is obtained by following each character's route. Ragna affirms they should collect it since the sacred relic is tied to the saint's awakening. Ragna explains they just need to defeat the golem in front of the door and adds there should also be a teleportation magic circle nearby that leads to the exit. Alicia questions if that's really true based on the game's records, but Ragna says he can't tell them that the records state, if you defeat the guardian of the deepest level, you can return. Alicia cries out, "Look at that," pointing at a strange creature. Alicia points at a massive, ornate door, exclaiming, "That?" Alicia notes with confusion that there's no golem guarding the door, and Mariana suggests that it might be the exit. Suddenly, a large, grotesque monster composed of swirling mud and a single eye appears from the wall. Ragna shouts, "Mariana," as she stares down the creature with surprise. Ragna grabs Mariana and pulls her away from a burst of fire, shouting, "Eek!" The monstrous creature lets out a terrifying, guttural laugh. Alicia, holding her dagger, looks shaken, asking, "What is that?" Ragna, looking tense, and Mariana, adjusting her glasses, agree, noting that it has such incredible power, it's like the sun. Ragna identifies the creature as something capable of releasing immense magical power, perhaps a dragon or Fenrir. Ragna tells both girls to step back, identifying the creature as a demon, the being to whom Alicia entrusted her soul near the end of the story, and noting he doesn't really want to get too close. Alicia looks determined, holding her knife and facing the threat. The creature taunts Alicia, calling her a disgrace to the Duke's family for losing to a mere commoner after she challenged him herself. Alicia closes her eyes tightly, reacting to the cruel words. Ragna looks at Alicia, remembering her old persona as the demon's tool, and cries out her name, "Alicia." Ragna urgently cups Alicia's face with his hands, forcing her to look at him. Ragna firmly tells Alicia, "Look at me. It's all right." Alicia looks at Ragna, her eyes wide and confused, softly saying, Alicia runs away from Ragna's grasp, saying Ragna should stay right here and asking Ragna what about himself, since they both can use Aqua Veil, right? Ragna ignores her request, announcing that he's going to kill that bastard. Ragna charges the demon with his sword, saying the demon is going to take responsibility for triggering his fiancée's trauma, as the demon laughs menacingly. Ragna slices the demon, and the creature dramatically shrank. The creature is reduced in size by Ragna's attack. Ragna unleashes a massive, swirling attack with his sword, aiming to destroy the demon. Alicia and Mariana watch in shock, crying out that Ragna cut off its head, but realize that the monster is reforming. The demon's headless body is shown, regenerating quickly, as it wonders why its head fell and falls out of the air. The demon's head grows back, and its teeth snap. Ragna, standing ready, concludes that something like this isn't enough to kill the demon, which continues to wonder why it can't be defeated. Ragna taunts the demon, telling it, "Try and hit me. No problem." The demon launches a powerful kick at Ragna, who skillfully dodges. The demon insults Ragna's defense as pathetic and sloppy, calling him not even worthy of the lowest-ranked brave. The demon lunges at Ragna, shouting, "You're one to talk." Ragna is engulfed in the demon's fire attack. Alicia and Mariana look on in horror, crying out Ragna's name. The demon, seeing Ragna survive the fire, is shocked, saying, "Boo," and Ragna emerges, unharmed, from the flames. Ragna is completely unfazed by the powerful attack, asking the demon what's wrong, and noting that compared to this, the fire dragon's breath is much hotter. Ragna, looking intensely at the demon, demands to know who's inside and tells it it'd be helpful if it told him. Ragna explains his theory: demons originally don't have a physical form, so there must be a human inside who made a deal to serve their own desires. The demon simply stares back, letting out a soft hiss of frustration. Ragna accepts the demon's silence, declaring, "Fine then," and extending his hand toward the creature, deciding he'll know whose magic power it is if he touches it. Ragna's hand quickly closes in on the demon's form. The demon cries out in pain, shouting, "Ugh," as Ragna touches its physical form, which begins to glow intensely. Ragna realizes in shock that the demon is attempting self-destruction. The demon screams out, "Higya, I can't hold on anymore, as it begins to violently explode. Ragna shields Alicia and Mariana from the blast, leaping forward and cutting the energy with his sword as the three are flung back. The explosion tears up the dungeon floor, leaving a damaged landscape. Ragna kneels, muttering, "Damn it," and asks, "Who was controlling it?" Alicia and Mariana rush to Ragna, asking if he's okay, with Alicia pointing out that he is burned, but Ragna dismisses it as just a scratch. No big deal, as he holds his hand, remembering his promise to protect Alicia no matter what. Alicia closes her eyes and gives a subtle nod, appreciating Ragna's actions. Ragna smiles, saying he's glad and that it looks like Alicia's calmed down too, and Alicia quietly gives her thanks. Alicia sees Ragna look intently at something and asks, "Ragna? What's wrong?" Ragna reveals that he saw a teleportation magic circle during the fight, and he thinks this will let them return upstairs. Ragna is shown holding the glistening sacred relic in his hand, commanding Alicia and Mariana to agree that it's here and they should hop on the magic circle. The three stand ready on the magic circle, preparing to teleport out. Ragna looks down at the hand that touched the demon, realizing he has grasped the sensation of the magic power. The dungeon practice ends with a lot of chaos as a brilliant light erupts from the magic circle, and Ragna vows that he will definitely kill the person responsible once he can find the main body. A fit of deep coughs escapes someone in the opulent room. Another character kneeling nearby lets out a weary, "Ugh, geez," and remarks that the surroundings are utterly filthy. A question is put to Patricia, asking if she managed to recover the sacred artifact, followed by the pathetic dismissal of another person, Gelasis. Gelasis is forcefully struck, and in his pain, he weakly apologizes, admitting he failed to retrieve the item. The person who struck him is seriously angry at his failure, demanding how he could fail even though he was possessed by a demon. Another character, seemingly uninvolved and relaxing, simply asks what exactly happened. The striking character, recovering from the rage, explains the interruption, naming the interferer as Ragna Brave. The relaxing character dismissively tisks, labeling Ragna as a mob bastard from the frontier who should naturally disappear as the story progresses and calling him a mob noble. He fumes that it is entirely Ragna's fault the whole plan collapsed, stating his intention was to turn Alicia into the Villainess. The plan failed despite blackmailing their families and egging them on, concluding that even the former followers are useless and the Edward route is no longer usable. Noticing the striking character's injured hand, Jalesis attempts to offer healing, calling her Patricia. Patricia immediately shuts him up, ordering the fool to take off his clothes so she can examine his injuries. The focus shifts to a wide shot of the grand room and a large canopied bed. Patricia asks the now undressed Jalesis where he was injured. He points to his chest, indicating the wound's location. Patricia, a reincarnator herself, observes his injury and considers that the person who inflicted it, Ragna, is also a reincarnator, marveling that Ragna managed to take the head of an opponent off in a single blow. She realizes that the defeated person must have used a self-destruction technique, which destroyed his whole body, and concludes that it couldn't be helped, but wonders if the defeated person's circumstances were similar to her own. Patricia pats Jalesis' head, praising his effort and declaring his defeat was flashy and that he did a great job. Jalesis quietly thanks her for the praise. Patricia hugs him, tenderly calling him a crybaby and a winner, her adorable brother. She looks directly into Jalesis' eyes and tells him it is okay for her to be his big sister right now. Overwhelmed, Jalesis refers to her as sis, big sis. He continues to cling to his sister, admitting the opponent, Ragna, was truly strong and confessing his fear that he could not beat him. Patricia returns his embrace, teasing him that he is truly a crybaby and has been the same since way back. Holding her by the waist, kneeling before her, Jalesis is asked what he truly wants. He appears shocked and repeats the question, wondering what it is he wants. His eyes widen as he shouts his desire. He wants Alicia. He explains that he wants Alicia all for himself, even if he has to destroy her. Jalesis has a crazed look, imagining that if he destroys her, they will be together forever, and he will keep her chained up. But he quickly falters, realizing she belongs to Ragna right now, and his sister calmly suggests that he will simply have to kill Ragna and take Alicia. She cups his cheek, assuring him that he is special, and that if he can still keep going, she will believe in him. Patricia leans in close, promising that his big sister will always stay by his side. She then kisses him on the lips. The kiss is shown in a close-up, revealing her sharp fangs. After separating, a newly confident Jalesis vows to win next time and thanks her, promising to do his best, as a surge of magical power courses through him. Patricia smiles and calls him by name, pointing out that he has actually already won. Jalesis looks surprised as she winks, telling him he was embraced by a cute girl and even kissed her. He asks if that truly counts as a win, and she loudly exclaims that it does. They walk away from the school building with Patricia asserting that those monkey-brain school kids live for that kind of thing, and encouraging him to return to see for himself. Patricia repeats the name Ragna Vel Brave. Looking out a window, Patricia expresses that she doesn't know why Ragna came to this stage but warns that she will show no mercy if he gets in her way, wondering what his ultimate goal is in this scenario. She declares her ambition to carve her will into fate and the world itself, challenging this damn world. Focuses on her gaze, noting that in her eyes dwell a curse and determination.